Hello everyone, hope that you're doing well today. And in this video, I'm going to be painting in my sketchbook. This is the piece right here, and I really enjoy this as a winter scene to kind of keep it within the season of what I'm experiencing right now. And so with this piece, there is a sun set or rise, whatever you wish it to be, and it's just shining on the snow. And I really like the colors a lot, and I think it turned out really nice. And so if you want to continue watching and see how I paint it, then go ahead and we'll get right into it. So every time I go and start a painting, I like to start with the sky, and you will see me periodically dip my brush into the water and then back into the paint, and this just helps it so that it blends a lot easier on the paper, because with this sketchbook the paper is pretty thick, and so I have to make sure that it is covering the paper and that it spreads out evenly. And so I am creating different shades of blue, going from dark up top and then lighter down below. And then eventually there are going to be some trees. And right now I'm just creating the background of the forest with a bunch of as if pine trees or evergreens that are in the background. And I eventually will then add trees closer, and that looks really nice. And with this part I add red as a base color, and I eventually will add lighter and lighter colors on top to then get it to where I want it to be, which is more of a yellow color. And I know that if I had painted the yellow right on top of the blue, it wouldn't have stood out as much. And so I place as much paint as I can, and then I sort of just let it dry, and I focus on the sun. And I like to use my finger for this part so that the paint doesn't keep grabbing onto the brush, and then it just doesn't really spread out the way that you want it to. And also with using my finger, it's easy to make a circle. And so I'm just using a very little amount of yellow, and then I'm adding a lot of white for when I go and make the color of that sun. I really want it to pop and be really bright, because that's how it looks in the reference photo. And this is where I start adding more blue so that I can slowly make the colors blend in with each other. I'm not actually going to blend the two colors together. I'm just going to create little dots around the orange and blue and kind of mix them together, and that will be how I make it look like as if it's blending. And so I really want that back color behind the sun to be yellow, to be like a very bright yellow. So this is the part where I go back and I add a bit more of that color, and I will be messing with the sun for a little bit here until I am pretty satisfied with it. And I notice sometimes I do that with certain paintings and just details that I feel like I should focus more than I do with other details that are in the painting. And so here I am just going back with like a very dark green and sort of layering more of the evergreen in the background. And that is meant to be very dark just because of the way how the sun is shining. You really wouldn't be able to see much color in the trees. And then I'm going back and adding a little bit more of a peak to the top of the tree so that you can kind of decipher where they're at. And then I add even more of a darker black color to sort of bring back that dark color and to just add more of a texture and a detail. And so this is the part where I am essentially painting the snow, and what I do first is the main colors that are in the snow, and so a lot of it is just reflection from the sky and the shadows from the trees, and so there's a lot of dark color that I put down first. And then afterwards, I will go and get like a lighter grayish white color and just place that over top so that it looks more like snow. So yes, this is the part where I am just making a bunch of colors that are reflecting from what's going on in the background. And when I was doing this part, I was kind of a little bit unsure of what I was doing. I was like, well, I know what I'm looking at and I see the colors, so I'm just gonna keep playing around with the colors, because I know sometimes if I ever get stuck, I just sort of keep going with what I feel is right. And then if I have to, I will go back and repaint over top of it or do whatever I must to get it back to looking more identical to the reference photo, or just in general of whatever I'm painting to make it look more precise. And so this is the part I was saying where I add whites, and I also add more color to what was already in the background as well. So where I added the orange and the yellow, I go back and I add even a lighter orange and a lighter yellow to sort of make the snow reflection pop a little more, and also to sort of blend it more with the white that I put on top, because I didn't want it to like put like a bunch of little white dots and cover it like that with the snow. I really wanted the colors of the reflection to really pop as well. So I am going back and just adding that lighter color that I was talking about, and just sort of playing around and doing what I think looks good. And I think that's the most important part when you're going and painting, is do what you think looks good, because there could be somebody who is very critical, or even yourself, of your art, and it's just not necessary, especially if you hear it from other people. You don't need to listen to those people at all. You're creating your own art, your own pieces, and especially if you're trying to create art where it's your own style, or it's something that you've come to fall in love with, then yeah, you should embrace that. And that's kind of what I've done over the years, where I take a little bit of inspiration from realism, but I also know that I have a very love and passion for impressionism. And so that's kind of like what I'm doing right here. I'm going and adding the blue in between the yellow so that it looks like as if it's blending all together. And maybe you could even say that the yellow is popping in and out of the clouds, even though there's not really like any clouds, but you could always use your imagination. And so this is the part where I am painting the trees. This was probably my favorite part to do, because it just adds everything together and it makes the whole painting just come to life. And I don't know, something about painting trees is like, it's therapeutic in a way, especially when you are having to use a very like watered down version of paint per se, where it's more it's not as thick and it's more easy to glide with, because that's the type of texture and feel with the brush that you want when you go and create like tiny branches or just like tiny little pieces of grass or whatever it is that you're doing. And so with me using acrylic paint, I make sure that I have a good amount of water mixed in, like what I was saying earlier, especially with these branches, because as you can see, I keep going back and forth, and that's just because I gotta make sure that there's enough paint on the brush, but I also have to make sure that it stays pretty wet so that it can glide easier. And so I'm just creating all of these tiny branches in the front, and these trees, they're not gonna have any leaves or anything on it. This is just some trees that you would see during the winter time, and all the leaves are gone, and it's like a very calm kind of winter day. You know, there's not really like a snowstorm. This is like a couple of days after the snowstorm, so you see all these like pretty colors in the snow. But I also like creating these type of paintings too, where it's as if there's nobody there, right? Like there's no houses or footsteps in the snow, and I don't know, it's just so peaceful to think like this is a place where it hasn't been disturbed, and it's just like a peaceful place that either you could use your imagination and pretend that you're there, or you know, you look at this painting and you think like that would be so nice to be there right now. But that's always the type of feeling that I like to give when I create paintings, is like, what's a cozy place to be at, or you know, what's something that is within the season that I'm experiencing right now, and how can I make that into like a pretty painting, or a place where even though it's freezing cold, is a place that you'd be like, you know what, that'd be a cool place to go to. So yeah, but because I was thinking about putting like a building or something in the background, but sometimes the simpler that you go with the paintings, it's better. And so with this part, after I'm done painting all of the trees, I'm going back and adding a lighter color onto the bark, and I'm doing it the same direction that the sunlight is coming and facing towards, so that it looks a bit more realistic. And the only tree that I don't paint is the one that's the closest to the sun, because I felt like it should be pretty dark, and I didn't really touch it too much. And then this is the part where I add the shadows, and I don't know, this might be more of my favorite part, because this is what to me really makes it feel like it's coming to life. You see the shadows, and just more and more details are starting to come alive, and I just love seeing that. And so yes, we are about done, and I'm just going to be ripping the paint off here at the end. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that this has given you some inspiration. I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your week, or whenever I come back, and bye-bye.